what's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 14 of Zipline, the official Zipper Interactive podcast. See, there's slight tweak to what I usually say. I'm Chris Roper.
I'm Jeremy Denham. And today we are joined by one Cade Myers, assistant producer here at Zipper Interactive. You may know him from games such as MAG or SOCOM 4. Hi, Cade.
What's up, guys?
How's it going?
Not bad.
Welcome to our show. Cade's a little nervous for his first his first appearance. Which is funny for a guy who walks around shirtless all the time.
Whatever.
Yeah, really.
How embarrassing.
I think it's time to get to the Z-Cap.
So obviously, there's no doubt about it. Our big news this week is that SOCOM 4 is now slated for 2011. I'd say that's a pretty big deal, Chris.
Yes, that's right.
If you missed our letter to you on our SOCOM blog, then the reason, if you're shocked, it's the first time you're hearing it, the reason that we've pushed the game back is that, to be quite honest, we want extra time to ensure that the game looks great, plays great, and that we want to hit a certain level of quality that we don't want to miss. And frankly, if it means delaying the game to get there, that's what we're going to do.
Right, and I know that there's been some confusion because part of this was that, there might be, there's time to add some extra features, whatever, and we actually are adding stuff that would not have made it into the game if it had shipped in 2010. So that is a true statement. There is extra stuff coming in there. But yeah, I mean, the overall thing is that we just wanted the game to be as good as it possibly could be, which meant a 2011 release.
So what does this mean for the release of information? I'm sure is then your next question. We're going to continue to do the podcast. They're going to remain unaffected. We're going to continue to answer your questions to the best of our ability week after week. Obviously, this is going to affect our schedule somewhat on when we're going to be able to reveal some of the things we originally planned to reveal. But don't worry, we're still going to give you what we can when we can. And we are confident that you're going to like the game quite a bit when it comes out next year, 2011. No, we can't tell the exact date yet.
It's some pretty cool MAG news. We announced that 1.07, patch number 1.07, will be coming out in early August. There's a bunch of really cool stuff here. One of the coolest things, in addition to it's being added to the game, is what's called the Happy Hour Double XP bonus. What this is that the first hour that you play of every single day of the week, you're going to get double XP for that hour. So it's a nice little bonus for you to come back and play every single day. Of course, you can keep playing and get your regular XP after that, and we'll have the other directives bonuses and things like that will still continue as they would normally. But every day, 7 days a week, the first hour of the game, you get double XP. So that's pretty awesome. There's other things like we're using the patch to push suppressions faction neutral change, add faster and download and patching code to make future downloads more efficient and quicker. And the infamous Ninja Door at Objective F, the bug on Valor's domination map, has been fixed.
Finally.
Yes.
Yes, it's it's one that everyone is really happy, I think, to see changed. One thing I want to point out about the XP is that it actually stacks on top of our double XP for directives as well. So if you play for that first hour and also choose directives, you'll actually have double XP on top of double XP. Cade, what's 2 times 2?
4.
There you go.
Yeah.
4 times XP if you do the first hour on directives.
Yep.
So if you're greedy or you just like the feeling of being all powerful, that's the way to go. In other MAG news, we also kicked off our latest Influence MAG poll this week. Chris wrote that article. Good job, Chris.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic penmanship.
It was written on the computer.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Very professional. We're asking you guys if you want leaving a game early to count as a loss against your record, and you have to keep in mind that this does include people quitting out of a game early intentionally or an accidental disconnect as well. Mm-hmm. To vote, all you have to do is head on over to the MAG blog. Where's that, Chris?
It is blog.mag.com.
Excellent.
Which is very similar to blog.socom.com.
Which is where you find the what, Cade?
SOCOM information.
Yes.
The blog there.
Dude, you're nailing it so far.
No hard questions.
Fire.
Yeah.
Wait, before you leave.
Sorry.
Come on, man. We got some more information.
We're just starting the show.
I was going to kick you out for cutting me off.
All right.
The voting period ends on August 10th at 11:59, so you have until then to vote. Pacific time. Very good. And you can only vote once, so make it count. And it's a 2-point question.
Sure.
You ready now? Now you ready to interrupt my silence?
Yeah.
Go.
Okay. In a bit of SOCOM 4 news, last week we mentioned something about weapon access and how it works, being that it was side specific and that sort of thing. But the explanation wasn't clear enough, apparently. So we want to kind of readdress this again and kind of give you better details about what it is. Jeremy, you talked about this on the forums.
Yes.
But why don't you repeat it for the people that hadn't seen it there and want to listen
So
to the
I
show?
put this on the forums earlier this week because after that podcast, there was a little bit of confusion about how weapons and factions and all that will work. So to make it clear for those of you that missed it, it is this. In single-player mode, the weapons you start the game with are very sparse, and that's because of story reasons. You don't have the opportunity to return to a base or stop and reload. You don't have any of those options to stock up. So instead, you have to scavenge your weapons from enemies as you progress. So you pick up a weapon, and then that adds it to your armory for future deployments as you go along. However, and here's the big however, this is one that people are really curious about. In multiplayer mode, the weapons that you have to pick depend on what side you're on.
Match to match.
Exactly. So, or to put it another way, if you're in a clan or you're worried that you have to, that you won't have access to your weapons, it's all about which side you play before the match.
Right.
So
from for each specific round and all that, it's not you don't make a character and stuck with that forever. It's whatever you're playing as right then.
Yep.
That's what you get.
The one caveat is you have to have unlocked the weapons to have access to all of them. Some weapons are locked, but we'll have details on how you unlock those weapons in a future podcast.
Yep. Last thing we want to mention this week is that speaking of SOCOM 4, it is in Germany. It'll be in Germany from August 18th through 22nd. So if you're going to the show over there or happen to live in Europe, then go check out the latest version of it. And we'll have specifics about exactly what that build entails when we get closer to the show.
It's an updated version. An updated version equals better.
Yes.
Awesome.
Cade,
Hi.
hi. You're our guest. Welcome.
Welcome.
Still a little nervous?
Yeah, a little bit.
It's okay. You look totally natural.
All right.
To give everyone a bit of a background on who you are and what you do here. Who are you and what do you do here?
I'm the assistant producer for SOCOM 4. I've been an assistant producer here for X number of days.
You just started.
I was
Welcome to the team.
Yeah, I was assistant producer on MAG as well. And what that means is so for MAG, I ran all the multiplayer tests, which meant coordinating everything with our test team, our development team, the Foster City QA department we had, and the San
Sony
Diego
guys.
all the Sony
Yeah.
guys, yeah, and get you basically filling up 256 players for the massive matches for MAG, and then basically I was a grunt. I pretty much did everything that any of the other producers didn't want to do or didn't have time to do, or anything that the managers, the leads had that they needed additional help on. So I pretty much pick up slack, I guess.
What I want to say is one thing that people would be kind of jealous about, I guess, that they're not getting the call from you on a weekly basis, is that you currently, like you just said with Meg, run the SOCOM 4 inter-office playtest. And you say, hey, Friday from 2 to 3 p.m., come play SOCOM 4 and do this and all that other thing. And you call the intercoms, you're like, all right, change maps and do
Yeah.
this. And I think that's kind of a cool little thing that you're the God voice, if you will, of the SOCOM 4 playtest at the moment.
Yeah, I know that for it is cool to be able to do that, and I don't know that actually no one else in the company does that. It's interesting to have an intercom service system in our company that you can actually talk to everybody and let them know what's going on. But I abused it when we were on MAG. I would sit on the mic for a minute or two, which is a long time to have to listen to someone talking over speakers in your office. So
Yeah, it makes us want to reevaluate our vote to kick system internally.
yeah, exactly.
So, one of the things that registered really well with people on our forums once we put your profile out at the early of the week was just how many games that you've worked on. You've been up there on some big titles. Tell us a little bit about those games, just so people know your background. You don't have to go through the minutia of what you did on each game, but just let them know games that you worked on so they know what kind of a background you have.
I've been in the game industry for I think my resume said 11 years. That sounds about right.
So whatever you made up at the time.
Well, yeah, it sounded good to me. 11
Yeah.
years sounds like a respectable. And I actually started out at Sierra Online when it was Sierra Online, and
With a hyphen.
And the first game I worked on was a Master Cook title, so it was nothing awesome. It was Master Cook
Are
for
you
Mac.
a good cook now?
I'm a good cook anyways, but so it didn't help. I'm sorry. And then I started out as a QA tester, just that quote unquote dream job that a lot of people are like, I just wish I could play games all day. I got to play games all day. It's not all games though. I mean, like there's work involved. Just doing that, I got the opportunity to move up in the ranks, as it were, and become a lead tester on some really awesome titles.
Go ahead, drop some names. Do it.
Half-Life was probably the single biggest title I've ever worked on.
I think some people have heard of that game before.
Yeah, maybe. And it's the original, so it's really old school. But so that was a cool opportunity too, because it was my first chance to kind of get to know a developer that was outside of Sierra, because Sierra was a publisher, and so they would bring in all these third-party people to make games for us, and we would publish them and test them. And I got the opportunity to go over to Valve, get to know all the people that worked at Valve. That was a really cool learning experience, to not just come to work and look at a build every single day, but to go over and meet the people who are actually making the game and get to know the process the in-depth process that it is to just even make a build and get it shipped off to the producers. So.
Any other big games that you've worked on that you want to name drop before we get to the Q&A? It's actually very impressive.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I worked on Homeworld and Homeworld 2 and Empire Earth, which was, I thought, great. They're built by a team in Boston. And a little game called SWAT that was really popular for Sierra. I don't know if everybody out there enjoyed it, but it's in many ways very similar to SOCOM. I mean, obviously it has a different title and different specific details about the game itself. It's all about police tactics and SWAT tactics and everything. But it was a very real simulation type of a game. There was we actually made it with and worked with the LAPD SWAT teams to make sure that our tactics were accurate, and the way that we, you stack up on a door before you enter it, and the way you enter a door, and you throw in your flashbangs, and the way you clear a room and everything. So it was a lot of fun to be a part of that team, and it was actually really good training for coming over here and working on SOCOM, because there was so many similar things about not just the process of making the game, but the realism and keeping things authentic.
And learning how to bust down doors.
Yeah, that never hurts.
Die Before I wants to know what
Great
the weird...
name.
It is. What the weirdest task you ever had to do as an assistant producer was?
Well, I don't know that I have an assistant producer answer to that, but I have an associate producer, because at Sierra I was associate producer, and for whatever reason, I mean, we had that cool tool that Microsoft's been selling for a while called Excel, but I was in charge of putting together the schedule, which sounds not too interesting, but it was basically the schedule for the entire project, and I did it on Post-it notes on a big, huge wall. And so instead of actually putting them in little boxes in Excel and putting times and everything and who owns it and everything on there, I made a huge wall with Post-it notes. That was, I don't know, it was kind of tedious.
What happened if you had to find something quickly?
Oh, you just have to memorize it. I'm not saying it was the best approach, but that's what I did. So.
Sim Sephiroth says, you guys stated several weeks ago that you're still in the pre-alpha stage. Are you still in pre-alpha, or has it progressed past that?
The answer is yes.
Which one?
We are.
Just flat yes.
Yes, that's it. You figured it out. No, we're still in pre-alpha stage. So I'm sure that there will be something that says we're alpha and, big exclamation points at the end, but we're still pre-alpha.
And for those who might have missed the podcast earlier where we did explain the difference between pre-alpha and alpha, Cade, if you could explain, what is the difference between pre-alpha and alpha?
From our perspective, it's code and content complete. So basically, we like all the features that we want to put in the game, all the levels that we want to be in the game are there. It means that there's still bugs in the game and things that we need to tweak on those features, but everything is code and content complete, if that makes sense.
Red Violence wants to know if SOCOM Confrontation, which was done by another studio, Slant 6, influenced SOCOM 4 in any way.
Yes and no. I think that there were lessons that Sony learned, and they were able to share some of those experiences with us so that we could not fall into any any of the same habits or run into any of the same issues. But I think that the biggest lesson was probably how important a single-player game is to SOCOM franchise. Both single-player and multiplayer are so important to this franchise that I don't think you can not
It's
make
like an
one.
Oreo cookie. You can eat the middle,
Yeah.
but you still need the cookie part.
Yeah, you're still going to eat the cookie part.
If you don't have the cookie part, how do you get to the middle to
how
eat
can
it?
there be a middle?
It's a
It's
delivery
just
vehicle.
floating there.
Yeah.
So they just work hand in hand.
Marcus Soul wants to know if MAG will ever have a single-player campaign or a co-op mission mode added to the game. This is very similar to kind of what you're talking about,
like
but
the
with the other
opposite.
title.
Yeah, it's totally like the opposite. It's just the cream filling. MAG is all online, and that's the way it was always intended to be. And personally, I think that's the way it should stay. I mean, SOCOM 4 is your single-player game. Well, SOCOM franchise is your single-player game. So
HDK, who asks a lot of questions, and we know him from the forums quite often, wants to know if we can go into detail about SOCOM 4's environmental destruction and how it impacts the gameplay.
there's a lot of different things that you can interact with in the world. Destructible cover, things like Jersey barriers, if anyone knows what that is. That's the thing that prevents you from running into cars on the other side of the freeway. We have things like that in the game that if you drop a grenade next to them or shoot at them, they basically will pick apart. They'll fall apart and will expose someone who's behind that cover. So if someone's using that for cover, you can totally put them at risk by basically knocking down that cover, and then they're going to move off to a different position to get better cover. So yeah, it totally affects gameplay. I don't know what else to say. It's huge.
Dexter Baxter wants to know if Zipper will ever release some kind of SOCOM dynamic theme on the PlayStation Store. Dynamic themes I know are an interesting thing because some people do this, some people don't. But then the other thing is also different ones are available in different countries. And you'll go on there and you look at the Japanese store and they'll have stuff that's not in the U.S. and vice versa. And
I know one of the first ones was that Zebra title that came out, and it was
The
only
Africa.
available in Japan.
Africa with a K.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So I think the answer is probably. I don't know specifically that we have that planned out that we're going to do it, but we did it for MAG. I don't think it's very. It's not some huge piece of technology you got to develop. It's just taking the time to put together. So we want to support the fans as much as we can, but it would be something that would come out closer to actual shipping.
So not confirmed, but likely.
Likely, yes.
MyStain wants to know. It's not MyStain, that's his name. Wants to know when we're going to see some Domination map updates to MAG, and which maps can we expect to see these updates on? It's funny, we were just talking about this in our news segment.
Yeah, so I was just going to refer back to that. In 1.07, there will be updates to the Raven and Valor maps.
And specifically, the Raven map's getting most of the love in this one. It's the Raven map got a lot of redesign work. There's some things added, some things removed. I think it's a more fluid map now. It actually plays much better than it did before. The Valor map fix is more of technical stuff. Fixing the F glitch that we referred to earlier and a few other bugs. But for the most part, the Valor map is like just a slight brush, while the Raven map is let's not only brush off everything, let's add some new pieces too.
right, taking the Bob Ross approach to that answer.
With the happy little hand grenades.
Several people on the forum want to know if there are any gun attachments that we can talk about yet, and if there are any real and or weapon specific stuff. Are there any that are? Sorry, let me rephrase.
The question is, what can we expect for weapon attachments? Can we talk about them yet?
Yeah,
We cannot talk about specifics on weapon attachments, but hey, we're going to have them. That's
Weapon
pretty much. Is that
attachments
specific enough or
confirmed.
no? Yeah,
No, I
confirmed.
mean, but it's actually I'm a little bit excited to talk about that aspect when the time comes to talk about how that whole system works. We just can't talk about it yet.
right.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Rev wants to know if SOCOM 4 characters will be able to swim.
No. The way that the gameplay is for SOCOM 4, there's nothing in the story that requires the player to go, in
water?
Yeah, I mean, maybe waist deep, but that's about it. So
Lava.
there's no swimming.
Lots of folks on behalf of Wyraj. Wyraj?
Let me give you the background. That a whole bunch of people posted on behalf of Viraj because he really wanted these questions answered.
Yeah, and he wants to know what things can we tell him about MAG's upcoming clan feature.
The only thing that I've been told is what it's going to be called. It's going to be called Clan Deploy.
That is the official title.
Clan Deploy.
So we've been referring to it for the last, 2 months as it is Clan Wars, but that's just a working title.
Right.
The final actual title of the feature is Clan Deploy, And that's the only button we can throw you on that one right now.
That sounds very, very military.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But we'll have more details on the clan feature in the next few weeks, and if not the next few weeks, in the next few weeks after that.
Be vague. Be vague.
Thank you. I'm working on it.
Toybox wants to know if there will be night vision in SOCOM 4, as that's been a common inclusion in past games.
In the retail version of the game, no, there will not be any night vision. And that's all we can say right now.
Okay. Rain of Rain wants to know if there'll be quick reload animations like those of SOCOM 2, or can we expect longer reload animations found in Slant 6's Confrontation?
What's long? I don't know. But I know that our reload times are faster than what was in Confrontation.
Yes, actually much faster.
They're pretty quick.
Yeah.
Stewie W
says,
Stewie W69 says, what are the chances of getting a new SMG for MAG somewhere down the line? SMGs weren't mentioned as gun types by Scott Rohde last week when we talked to him, but SMG is kind of a classic weapon. What's the chance we're going to get it?
Smug.
Okay, currently there are no plans for a new SMG right now. Sorry.
No, we're holding you personally responsible.
Yeah, good.
It's my fault. Scott Rudy.
Cigar Man 1 says that the vids I saw of SOCOM 4 at Comic-Con looked inconsistent in relation to the grenade arc. Is this something that you have noticed, and what, if anything, is being done to improve the grenade mechanics so that our grenades will follow the arc to avoid situations where we kill ourselves or our teammates accidentally? Good question.
Yeah, it's. I mean, that's one of those things where it's just like gun accuracy. You're always trying to make sure that you get the right balance between realism and what you're graphically representing on the screen. So, yeah, the reality is that sometimes, depending on the build and what the designers have tweaked, the grenade may fall short of the arc. The grenade may go longer than the arc. It may bounce weird. So those are all things that we obviously want to get it right. We're going for realism. We want it to bounce and look natural and hit where you actually expect it to hit. So, yeah, I would expect in the game that it's gonna be perfect. It's going to go where you expect it to go.
No Fear wants to know, what do you feel is Zipper's greatest challenge in meeting the community's expectations for SOCOM 4, which I'm sure everybody listening to this show will admit that they are exceedingly high.
I do know that we listen to maybe more than we should. We listen to all the feedback that you guys provide and try to make sure that anything that we do in the game makes sense and we can do it well. So I can't specifically point to any one thing that we're trying to make perfect or that's the biggest challenge. We're always trying to make sure that the community's voice is heard in the game, but there's a difference between listening to every single voice or finding all the stuff that makes sense for the game we're trying to make, and putting it in the game and making it awesome.
Right.
And not just making, we put in this feature, it's okay. I mean, we want everything to look polished and beautiful and play and be fun. So,
and from our vantage point as the guys that interface with the community directly on a daily basis, I can tell you that the expectations are definitely high, but they're also varied. For every person that you think wants one thing, there's somebody else who then counters that who wants the exact opposite.
Right.
So ultimately, all we can do as a team is create a vision for this game, decide what we want to make, and then stick to that without sacrificing what we think is the core of the game, and at the same time listening to our fans and listening to find out what it is that makes SOCOM what it is to them, and incorporating that into our own vision as well.
Right.
Right.
Gamer Station 151 wants to know that with MAG's faction-neutral sabotage already available and faction-neutral suppression coming in 107, what is going to happen to the VO that usually plays over the mode selection?
My understanding is that the VO, for the time being, the quick solution is to remove that VO that usually plays for that mode selection.
And that'll be in the next patch, the one that's in 107.
Right.
So, and does that include the VO that's in the game as well, or just when you're on the menu screen?
Just the menu screen. The VO in the game is the same.
Okay. Major TV Control wants to know what is more important, in your opinion, in a shooting game like SOCOM. Is it hit detection? Is it the feel of the guns? Is it the level design? Is it something that isn't any of those things? What do you think is the most important thing?
Well, for a shooting game, specifically SOCOM, what I always think is important is AI and whether or not they seem intelligent. Are they doing things that allow me to, so it doesn't feel scripted. I don't like to fail a mission and know going back into the mission, oh, I just got to go this way, or I have to do this again, and it'll be fine. I don't want I don't want muscle memory when I'm playing a game like ours. I want to be able to go in.
War is chaotic, so it should kind of always fall apart, and you should always
totally.
have to adjust.
It's like, yes, everybody should know that they need to take cover over here and that this is a safe location, but maybe you do something to that location so it's no longer safe. You knock out the cover that's there, and all of a sudden they need to be, I want them to be smart enough to figure out, I can't go there anymore. Bad idea. Where's my other cover locations? Things like that. For me, I think that's one of the most important things for our game. Yes, accurate gun models, accurate weapon damage, hit detection. If I look like I'm lined up on a head, I want to hit that head. I don't want it to take a chest hit or him to have an animation that looks like he got hit in the leg. I want that hit detection to be correct. So, all of these things are important. But for me, I always, with a lot of single-player games, you play the game and you play it once and you're like, yeah, pretty good. And you move on to multiplayer, or you just move on. I want our game, and I think everyone here wants our game to be a game where you can play it and then play it again. And it's yes, the mission directives and objectives are the same, but it's the path I took to get there is altered. It's different. My guys are more aggressive. They're going in defense. You want that. What's the word I'm looking for? That replayability. Mm-hmm. You want that to be fun every single time. So,
Volp writes in with a question that a lot of people have been asking about recently. So a lot of other people asking the same thing. It wants to know if there is a push to talk button in SOCOM 4.
Very common question.
Yeah, that's something we're working on this one. We're still trying to figure out the right path to go down. We haven't specifically ruled anything out.
We're experimenting.
We're experimenting.
Like it's college.
Yeah.
we've got a pretty good idea of where we're going to go with this, though, but we can't talk about it just yet until we finalize it, obviously. But we think we've got it identified. Until we identify it for sure, though, we're not going to tell you, especially if there's a possibility it could change.
Yeah, things are not necessarily black and white.
Right.
We'll say that. Yeah. Another question that a lot of people from the entirety of the universe want to know is if there will be health regeneration in SOCOM 4's multiplayer.
It's definitely in single player. I will take this one. The thing to remember, the reason we wanted to bring this up is because this is the single most asked question for every podcast that we have. And we wanted to make sure that we include it so that that we see this and this is something you're really adamant about learning the information on.
So moving on.
But yes, we do have to move on. We're not talking about that particular aspect of multiplayer yet. We're talking about little things like whether or not we're going to have multiplayer,
right?
which we are. Congratulations. And
I thought that was still up in the air, but okay, all right. I guess we're working on it.
And a lot of the other things, but specific things about the game, like its modes, how the exact setup is, what weapons you can use, how you unlock them, like we alluded to earlier. Those are things we're waiting for a larger reveal down the road. So do know that we are listening to your requests. We just unfortunately can't answer it yet, but we will eventually, guaranteed. You will get an answer to that eventually, I promise.
Let me kind of answer this in a different way. We have a painting we want to show you, but we don't want to tell you about each individual brushstroke.
There you go.
So when we can actually show you all of multiplayer, you'll learn everything at the same time, and all of it will then make sense.
That's kind of beautiful. Nice.
This week's audio question comes from Grizz the Killer, but he has a 3 instead of an E because he's elite.
Hey, Zipline Podcast. I am Grizz the Killer, and I was wondering if there was going to be any type of cinema mode in SOCOM 4 like there was in Uncharted 2.
The answer is no. It didn't really fit into the scope of what we're trying to do with SOCOM, and so it's not something that we did for the game.
Well, that brings us to the end of the Q&A session for this week, and now it is time to get to the Zip Tip.
For those of you that aren't familiar with the Zip Tip, it is a weekly look into the minds of our guests, the madness that they have lurking inside, especially this guy. The question. Madness. The question. Wow. Thanks, Chris. The question is usually, the thing that they give you is typically some sort of tip about life, tip about a game. Could be anything. What would you like to tell everyone that they shouldn't forget? What is the essence of your advice to the world right now?
And it cannot be play mag as a team.
That's right. That is our standing rule.
Okay. Right, check. Okay, cool. All right, well, God, I got to come up with something new then. Well, I know that in my profile thing I put in, keep it simple, stupid. It's not something that I chant every day as a mantra, really. It's just something that I know that a lot of games try to throw a lot of bells and whistles at you and try to give you every single thing that every other game out at that time has. Mm-hmm. Keep it simple, stupid is a good way to approach game development, I think, because figure out what you're going to do and do it well. Keep it simple.
Yeah, that's words to live by. That brings us to the end of the show, I think. So if you actually, as always, if you want to get your questions answered on the show, want to submit an audio question, if you want to do that, submit an MP3 up to 10 seconds long, and please include the content of the question in the body of the email. But if you want to submit any of these things, or just send us pictures of your dog, you can email to zipline@zipperint.com.
Also, you can always ask any question that you have in the official Q&A threads that are located on the official mag and official SOCOM forums. We start them every Monday. They go up alongside the profile of our guest.
Right. You can always find us on all of your favorite social networking sites, such as Twitter and Facebook.
We're not on Napster.
Well, Napster's music. Anyway, you can find us on Twitter. You can just look for Zipper @Zipper. Or if you can go to Facebook, you can go to facebook.com/SOCOM or facebook.com/ZipperInteractive.
Next week, our guest is Mary Olson. Mary is Zipper's audio manager, so she's in charge of anything and everything sound-related here at the studio. Music, effects, you name it. Go ahead and name it. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
She also has a pink guitar in her office.
She does.
And you don't see that very often at all.
Right.
Yeah, I believe she has a Martin in there also. It's fine instrument.
You'd be surprised at how many people at Zipper are guitar players.
Oh my God.
I would say 80% of the studio are guitar players. Is that
Probably.
accurate?
I feel like everybody's in a band or something, and I'm on the outside.
Do you play anything? Do
No.
you play our games?
I played the French horn when I was in 6th grade.
That's something.
Yeah, I didn't really do good.
Yeah.
More cowbell. Cade, thank you very much for coming on our show.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate it. You won't be invited back. But
All right, fair enough.
but we had a good time while you were here. Get out.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Send them.